Hello, everyone. This is the first part of the first lecture of Econ 406, taught by Andy Atkeson for the MAE program in the spring of 2020. I'll be posting videos of me going over the lecture slides, and I'm going to be asking all of you to take a look at these videos before we come into class on a Zoom session, so that we can use the class time to have a discussion of what we've covered in these lectures. So in this first class session, I am going to want to spend some time getting to know each one of you. So I would like you to think about the question of what you would like to do after UCLA and be prepared to speak for about a minute on this question when I call on you in our first Zoom session. I'll call on each of you by name, and you can use the video and talk about yourself, and that way each of you gets to know each other, and I get to know a little bit about you. Now, the other thing I wanted to discuss in our first Zoom session is what is it we're going to try to do in this course? How are we going to structure the course and your learning in the course? So what we're going to do is go through a set of material that'll be broken up into 3 segments, which I will discuss. And in each segment, there's going to be a homework that'll be relatively big at the end of a segment. There will be data exercises that I'm going to be asking you to do every class. These will not be hard data exercises. They'll be simple things like asking you to download data and just make a graph. I want you to look at the graphs when you make them and think about what might be going on with the data so that we can talk about it in our Zoom sessions. A lot of what I hope to achieve in this class is to get you talking about economics, not just doing technical things, but actually making interpretations and explaining those interpretations in a simple language that, say, your clients or your co-workers or even your friends and relatives could understand. We are going to have a final exam as well at the end of the course. We will figure out exactly how it is that we're going to administer this final exam as we get closer to the date. But I would anticipate it being on or around the last day of class in the 10th week of June. So each of these components of the course, the homework, the data exercises, and the final, will count for 25% of your grade. So altogether, those 3 parts will count for 75% of your grade. I'm also going to ask each of you to prepare a 5-minute PowerPoint presentation at the end of the quarter. And we'll probably use Zoom to have you make the presentations, or maybe we'll have you record the presentations and post videos that then I could watch. And that 5-minute presentation is really intended to give you a chance to practice talking about an interesting question in economics that, say, again, potential clients of yours, if you were to work in finance, might be interested in. So I'm going to ask you to speak about one of 3 questions. These are 3 questions that we'll be covering in the course. So in part 1 of the course, we'll be talking about interest rates and the term structure of interest rates, and kind of a fundamental question about where do we think interest rates will be in 5 years or 10 years? What kind of a forecast can we make for interest rates? And as you'll see as we go through this section, there's a lot of uncertainty about this. And so it would be interesting in your 5-minute presentation for you to take a stand one point of view or another and make a case for why we should think it will go one way or another. There's going to be no right answer to the question. It'll be all about kind of showing your thinking and showing your presentation skills, again, as you might practice those if you were speaking to a client. A second question that we will ask in the course, and you may have the opportunity to talk about, is one about, can the U.S. economy grow at 3% a year for the next 10 years? Now, obviously, with what's going on right now, we'll have to be revising a lot of our thinking about what's going to be happening to the U.S. GDP and the U.S. economy overall, and not just the U.S., but for many countries around the world. But I think we can revise this question and come up with an answer, or come up with at least something semi-intelligent to say on this question by the end of our 10 weeks together. The third question we want to discuss is the one, is the stock market overvalued? Again, this would be a topic you could choose to make a presentation on to bring together some of the things that we'll discuss. And I would look forward to what you have to say about it. Obviously, every day the stock market seems to be going down or up quite a lot. So we'll have some potentially interesting new answers to this question at the end of 10 weeks when we hear your presentations. And we'll do these presentations outside of the regularly scheduled class time. We'll all set up Zoom meetings where I can listen to your presentations one-on-one or ask you to record a video and submit it. I think I might prefer the Zoom meetings so that I can give you feedback on your presentations more directly right after you've given them. But again, the whole point of these presentations, and in some sense more broadly, this course, is to give you practice using economic theory to interpret data so that when you talk with clients, you can help them make sense of the world and what's going on around them. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to organize the course in 3 parts around each of these questions. Depending on how the schedule goes, we'll have roughly 3 weeks for each section and 1 big homework at the end of each 3-week section. I'll be listing readings on the syllabus every week. The syllabus will have links to the readings. I think almost all of them will be online. And I will do my best to indicate on the syllabus which 1 or 2 of the readings are the ones that you should focus on for each lecture. I am also going to, for the first time this year, circulate in advance some discussion questions that I'll want to talk with you about in our Zoom session. So what I'll do is I'll circulate the discussion questions. You should talk about them with each other before the class. I will start the class perhaps by cold calling on one of you in our Zoom session to answer or try to answer one of the discussion questions, and then invite others of you to comment on that answer or give a different perspective or have a bit of a discussion. What we will be aiming for is to have the Zoom sessions that we have during class time be as lively and engaging as possible. Again, as I said, the final exam is at least tentatively scheduled for the last class session that we have, which would be June 3rd this year, or it will be at a time close to that. Obviously, everything is evolving, and we're learning how this is going to go. So that's the end of the part 1 session of lecture 1.